Hello and welcome to this lecture. And from this lecture onwards, let's actually go ahead and start building a Django application. So the first thing which you need to do is that you need to know how to create a Django project. So what we will do in this case is that we will create a folder on our desktop. So let me just go ahead and create a new folder, and let me just name this folder as new. You can actually call this folder as anything, but for now I'm just going to name this thing as new, and this is going to contain all of our Django projects. So now once you have this particular folder, in order to create a Django project, you first need to open up the command prompt or terminal. So if you're on Mac like I am, so simply press command space and search for terminal, and if you're on Windows, you can search for the command prompt or CMD. So once this terminal window is opened up, what you have to do is that you have to navigate to the desktop. So now if you're on Windows, you need to follow exact same steps as well. So in order to navigate to the desktop, you need to type in CD and you need to type in desktop. So CD right here means change directory, and by changing directory we need to go into the directory which is desktop. So when I go ahead hit enter, now we are into the desktop, and now we actually want to go into this particular new folder. So in order to go there, I'll again type in CD new, hit enter, and as you can see, it now shows new here, which means that we are into this particular folder. Now for Windows users, when you open up the command prompt, make sure that you are into your users folder here, and from the users folder you need to navigate to the desktop. So once it shows users here, you need to navigate to the desktop, and then you need to navigate down to this particular new folder. Okay, so now once we are here, let's go ahead and learn how to create a project. So in order to create a project, there is a special command in Django which is called as Django admin start project. So if you want to start a project, you type in Django-admin, then type in start project, and then you need to name your project as something. So right now let's assume we call our project as something like let's say my site. So I'll type in my site over here and hit enter, and now as soon as I hit enter, the my site project is going to be created. Now if you want to check if this project is actually created, you can actually open the folder up. So if you open up this new folder, as you can see, we now have a my site folder in here, which is nothing but our Django project. Now once we have this project over here, it's going to have a bunch of files, and we are actually going to find out what these files are and what they do. So in order to find that out, let's first go ahead and open up this folder in an IDE or in a code editor. So I'll be using VS Code. So let's simply open up Visual Studio Code, and now let me just go to file, and I need to open the current project, which is, let's go to desktop, let's go to new, and let's open this thing up. So now as I open this thing up, as you can see, we have this particular my site project in here. So now let's understand the significance of these files right here. So this outermost directory, which is my site, actually acts as a container to hold all your project related files. So as you can see, this is our project and these are the project related files, and the my site directory actually holds each one of those files. Now let's talk about the other file, which is the manage.py file. So if you have a look over here, it has a bunch of code in here, and what this file essentially does is that it's actually a file which allows you to interact with your Django project. So let's say, for example, if you want to start up the server for the existing project, you can do the same by using this manage.py file. Now let's go and talk about init.py file, which is this file right here. Now if you have a look at this file is completely empty, and the job of this file is to tell Python that the current directory, which means the my site directory, should be considered as a Python package. So the sole purpose of this file is to tell Python that the my site directory is actually a Python package. Now let's move on to the settings.py file. And this settings.py file is actually going to contain all the settings and configuration for the current Django project. So for example, it has information like what kind of database we are using. So if you scroll down a little bit over here, as you can see, it's going to state that we are using a database which is SQLite 3. So if you want to choose any other database, we can make changes to this particular configuration here. And that's the main purpose of the settings.py file, that is to store the configuration of existing Django project. Now once we know about the settings.py file, let's talk about the urls.py file. So this particular urls.py file will contain all the URL patterns which are supposed to be matched with the incoming URL request. So if you recall from the previous lecture, as I earlier mentioned, we need to handle the incoming client request. So for example, facebook.com/user1. So we are going to receive such kind of request in our Django project, and in order to handle those requests, we need a file which is going to match up those requests with a particular pattern, and that job is actually done by this urls.py file. So this is actually going to contain the pattern which is going to match up with the incoming request. So right now, as you can see, we have something which is called as URL patterns over here, and it contains a bunch of patterns in here. So right now it only has one pattern, but as we go ahead and start building the site, we are going to have more patterns in here. Now, this information might seem a little bit overwhelming, and you might be confused with all of the terminologies and everything like that, but as we dive deeper into Django, all these things are going to start making sense. So if you are learning Django for the very first time, don't get intimidated by all the terminologies, and this might seem a little bit confusing, but if you give time to let things sink in, you will eventually find that Django is extremely easy to use and extremely easy to build websites. Now once we know what are the significance of these files, let's actually go ahead and learn how to start up your server. So in the next lecture, we will go ahead and learn how to start up the server which is provided by Django so that we can test our application. So thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you guys next time. Thank you.